In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front bumper brackets on this Ford F-150. Those are the brackets that hold your bumper assembly onto the frame. To do this, we're going to have to remove the bumper. If you need these or any other parts, check us out at oneauto.com. Let's get started. Now let's disconnect the fog light bulbs first, get those out of the way. I will leave the fog light assembly bracket bolted on, but the bulb wiring harness obviously leads back into the cab, so I want to get this unplugged. If you turn the wheel in the opposite direction of where you're working, it should clear some space here for you, or you could just leave it as is. Most of the time you can still reach in here. Regardless, reach in, and to disconnect it, you're going to have to pry back on these two tabs. Once they unhook, pull down on the wiring harness and do the same to the other side. Now underneath the vehicle from behind the front bumper, you'll see this shield here. Some vehicles might have it, some might not, but I have it here, so I have to disconnect it off of the bumper side. It has 3 large push clips here. So let's get a trim tool and pop these off. All right, get this out of the way. This exposes the brackets that we're after. What I will attempt to do now is unbolt the 10mm bolts that hold this larger one onto the bumper itself. So there are 2 over here, a couple more on the other side of the frame rail, and of course we're gonna have to do the same to the other bumper bracket on the passenger side. We're working on the driver's side here. Let's get this top one out of here. Once again, 10mm socket. And the bottom. And on the other side of this frame rail, you'll see this other 10mm bolt at the top right there. So let's get this one out also. And on the bottom of the other side of this frame rail, you'll see the lower 10mm bolt. Don't confuse it for these. These hold on to fog light assembly, so just take out this one that is on the bracket that comes from the top. Take this entire bracket off and set it aside safely. This is side specific. And now we'll do the same thing to the other side of the vehicle. And here's the passenger side, 4 bolts. Yeah, that happens. We'll have to fix that. Follow that bracket up and you'll see that 10mm bolt up there. And the lower bolt on the other side of the frame rail. And last one, all the way at the top here. Hold the bumper in place so it doesn't fall off. Now that you have your bumper unbolted, be very careful because, well, it's a little tippy and it's not holding on with anything anymore. So grab it by the fog lights right here, and you're going to want to twist it out and pull it away from the vehicle at the same time. There we go, a little down, and there it is. Set this aside safely. It's not very heavy, but it is somewhat large. Here's one of the 2 bolts that attaches this bracket, 21mm socket. Remove it. This side's free. Let's do the other side. And other side, also a 21mm socket. Now you can take this bracket, and there it is. We'll have to take the bolt bracket off of the actual support bracket. As you can see, it's clipped on with these little clips on the backside, so let's get those off. But other than that, here it is. These are only here to secure these at the factory, so you don't have to save these. Take some cutters or a pick or whatever you have that'll grab onto this and just take it out of here. There we go. Now there should be one on each stud. So this other one will also have one. So remove both. And there's the old bracket, and there's the bolt bracket, basically. That's the one that holds the 2 studs. We're going to save this. We're going to recycle this and replace it with a new one. On the frame side here, this other bracket is welded on. So this you need to inspect, and if it's rotted, bent, damaged in any way, you're going to have to get some bodywork professionally done here to replace it properly. This is basically, in the end, what holds on the front bumper. So you want to make sure that this is secure. Having said that, you can see two little marks here and here where the old bumper side bracket stayed attached to this one. So when putting this back on, you don't line it up based on this cutout or the bolt holes, because as you can see, there's an adjustment here. You want to try and line it up the best you can with the marks that it left. Now, you don't have to do this. I will, because this truck lives its life in a very rust-prone climate. So I'm going to coat this whole bracket in a little bit of anti-seize. If yours wasn't rusted, you could paint it or do whatever you have to do, but I prefer to coat it so that it hopefully slows down the rust in the future. What I will do, however, is remove the anti-seize right here where I need to see the marks. It will still be covered, but I'll be able to see some of the marks, and that's what I need. So now take this bracket, put it on, and try to line it up. Right there, you can see the cutout matches up. Now we're going to take this bracket with the bolts, put that through. It's going to be a tricky situation here because you can't see very well once you put this on. Well, there it is, fairly close right there. I'm going to put the mounting nuts on this bracket so that it can stay here without falling. And then as I tighten these, I will make sure that it's still positioned where it needs to be. So obviously it just moved back down. That's normal. I'm going to reposition it right here. I can see through this very small opening, I can see the outline of where it was, and same over here. So if you look at an angle, you can still see it, and this moves around. So push it to whatever side you need to line this up. Now let's snug it. Once you have it close, you can actually lock some locking pliers on it. Okay, here's our first bolt. Tighten this up. Once you have this one tight, the bracket won't move anymore. So let's tighten up the second one. Here's the second one. Make sure they're nice and snug. And if you need to, double check the first one. If you used any locking pliers to hold the bracket, remove those. If you remember that we had this bolt that snapped off, so what I'm going to do is just remove this entire bracket, the J-nut that it threads into, and I'm just going to use a regular bolt with a nut on the other side. You can source another J-nut if you want, or you can try to extract this broken bolt out of it, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. Okay, perfect. Now take the bumper assembly and bring it in, bring it up and in at the same time. It has to hook underneath the bumper cover. There we go. It's going to take a little bit of maneuvering to get it to line up. All right, there it is. Press it in, and this is when it would be really beneficial if you had a second person hold it in like this as you start in a couple bolts so that it doesn't actually fall off or potentially fall off and hurt you, because it is heavy and you don't want to crawl underneath it with it flopping around like this. Now very carefully get underneath the truck and let's bolt up the bumper as soon as possible so that we spend the least amount of time with it not completely secured. It's a good idea to have someone help you with this and have them lift up on the bumper while you try to line up this first bolt. I think that's started. I'm going to grab my tool and try to thread it in a little more. Don't tighten any of them until they're all in. Yeah, that one's definitely in, and I just tightened it all the way. So I'm going to back it off a couple turns. Okay, perfect. I want this to still be able to move around. Having said that, let's get the top one in. And on the outer part of this bracket, let's get this other bracket over it and start the bolt in. All right, that one's started. Okay, don't tighten it all the way, of course. Get this lower part bolted in. Now I have all four 10mm bolts started And I know that everything is lined up. I actually started the other side bracket as well, all 4 of them. Wasn't going to show you that because it's the same exact things. So once you have all of them lined up, move the bumper in any position it needs to be perfectly lined up with the bolts in. Mine already is. It's sitting exactly where it needs to be. So in no particular order, tighten all the bolts. And let's do the other side. This is the one where I had to replace the bolt with another regular bolt and a nut on the other side. I chose to put the bolt through the back side and the nut on the front side. If you have to replace any hardware like I did, just make sure it's the same grade and the same size. Let's put this shield back here. Get all the push clips back into the bumper. There we go. And now on both sides of the truck, plug in the fog light bulbs. If you had fog lights, make sure that connector clicks. And there you have it. Bumper bracket is replaced. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, don't forget to leave a like. And if you have anything to say, leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you can stay up to date with all of our future content. Thanks for watching.